that no missiles and no planes had been sighted coming from Iraq towards Saudi Arabia or indeed any place else. They emphasized that this could change and that we are to stand by. I have here the remainder of the Pool report on the launching of the strike that basically fills us in a little bit, that the first wave of F-15s took off about 3 hours and 10 minutes ago. Right now, near this airbase where we are, everything is fine. But again, the Saudi military sources say there is no evidence of any Iraqi retaliatory strike against Saudi Arabia or against Israel. That could change. They describe the U.S. assault on the U.S. and allied assault on Iraq as massive, using mammoth amounts of air power. But as far as they're able to ascertain, no B-52 bombers were in use. That's according to the Saudi military. We here are all fine. The entire CNN crew is fine. All the journalists here are fine. But again, it was a false alarm by Saudi National Civil Defense. Right now, the skies are quiet. There are no planes flying over. It's rather cloudy and overcast, but there is no indication at all of any kind of aerial activity from here. Charles Jaco, CNN, reporting live from Saudi Arabia.
All right, Charles, thank you, and we're glad to hear that was a false alarm. We should remind our viewers that we don't have a CNN presence in Kuwait City. We are unable to bring you news from there right now. Wolf Blitzer was reporting from the Pentagon when we interrupted him to go back to Charles Jaco. We went back, of course, because we had lost touch with him suddenly. Wolf, picking up where you were, please.
Yes, David, the initial indications are that this U.S. airstrike is moving along very smoothly. No reports yet of any U.S. Aircraft downed or anything like that. What we have been told is that the initial U.S. targets in Iraq and occupied Kuwait were anything that could endanger U.S. aircraft, especially anti-aircraft missile batteries, all of the Iraqi radar jamming installations. The U.S. has sent in what are called F-4G Wild Weasel and EF-111 Raven. These are defense suppression aircraft. Basically what they do is zap almost all of the communications in and around Iraq, making it very difficult for the Iraqi radars to hone in on the invading U.S. aircraft. The indications are very, very positive from the U.S. point of view here at the Pentagon that this U.S. airstrike is moving according to the game plan, which I reported earlier was very carefully orchestrated over these past many months. David?
Wolf, in the weeks and months leading up to this, there's been a lot of diplomacy and some failed diplomacy, and among the things that went on, Saddam Hussein made some threats. Among them were to do grave damage to Tel Aviv if he were attacked. Let's switch there now to Richard Roth. And Richard, are there any signs of retaliation?
No, so far Tel Aviv is quiet this morning. There is no sound at all almost in the city. Everyone in Israel has been urged to stay inside their homes as the government instituted what's called a national economy emergency system. But people have been advised to open up their protective gas mask kits and keep them nearby. And if anyone has to go to work, while they are there, they are urged to take their gas masks with them. The public is urged also to listen to the radio. And Israel radio has sprung alive with the reports from Mideast capitals, including reports from CNN, keeping everyone here up to date on the situation. This is the city that Saddam Hussein said he would attack with missiles should the multinational force attack him. So far, the skies are quiet here in Tel Aviv.
Richard Roth, thank you very much. Again, the President of the United States will address the nation and the world in under an hour from now at 9 Eastern. We return to Baghdad at the Al Rashid Hotel.
All right, David, here we are. The sky is being lighted now by some bright flashes far in the distance. You remember, Peter, when we were children, our parents would tell us if there was lightning, you could tell how far the lightning was away by counting 1 1,000, 2 1,000. I guess you could do the same thing for bombs, can't you?
Maybe, John. I was just picking up on a comment by Wolf Blitzer from the Pentagon that the targets were basically defense suppression. This could well be the case here because I see no fires on the horizon. If they were hitting buildings or even, structures, we did see smoke earlier, but we don't see any flames. Maybe the targets have been surface-to-air missiles or whatever, but we do not see flames at this point, even though scores of bombs have been dropped in Baghdad so far this morning. John?
Peter, we should try to help analyze, if we can, for at least our own edification, these bright white lights that seem to be moving across the sky from south to north right now. The lights look like the lights you'd see from helicopters, but there's no sound out there.
It could be radar suppression material dropped from planes or from spotter planes of some kind. It could be to disrupt the radar defenses of Baghdad. That would probably be my guess. That's the only reason I'd be up there, John.
Yeah. Bernie Shaw is going to come over and talk to us now. Bernie?
Well, I just wanted to chime in on this speculation. They could be choppers, those choppers that have the very, very quiet engines.
Yeah, and they could be at a great distance away from us.
You mean our choppers or their choppers? I mean U.S. choppers or Iraqi choppers?
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I very much doubt that multinational force choppers are this far into the country. If they are, it would be another kind of operation.
Then they would have to be Iraqi choppers.
Yeah.
I know that I saw 2 choppers go by this hotel window.
Yeah. Well, I know early in the morning we've seen several runs by choppers by the hotel. Helicopters, of course. The Soviet Hind helicopters are the ones that they use mostly here in Iraq. Now, way off in the distance, many, many miles away, you can hear these blasts again coming through. Some more anti-aircraft fire. And I get a little bit lower down on the ground. I'll once again let you hear the sound of what is going on over Baghdad tonight. The eerie thing about this is you still can't hear the airplanes. You can't hear any sign of these planes that the anti-aircraft guns are being fired at.
Yeah, well, I'm anxious for daylight to come. Maybe we can get some visibility. From what we can see, the populated areas of Baghdad where all the people live, there doesn't seem to have been any bombing activity at all. The bridges are still standing. In fact, the bridges over the Tigris River they are still lit. So we don't see any action at all within the city. Around us and a couple of government centers, there seemed to have been some bombing earlier, but right now, in fact, in the last half hour, the bombing has moved out seemingly beyond the perimeter of the city to presumably military targets, strategic targets, further west towards
Yes, that's correct. Kind of out of the immediate vicinity of Baghdad here. And I just looked out on the street a moment ago and saw a very small automobile driving down there. Peter, look at this. This is a bright flash of light that seems to be, it came across from north to south and even came up here by us in the hotel. And there it goes. It's almost like a shooting star.
I think that shooting star is probably an F-15, John.
Yeah. So that's what they look like at night when they're working. All right. It's good to know. There are a couple of vehicles out on the street, more anti-aircraft fire. Well, there's something going on that you can hear down there. It seems that maybe a bomb was just dropped again near the main telecommunications center here in Baghdad, and the anti-aircraft fire is again going up as the night sky continues to be brightly lighted in Baghdad. Peter.
Yes, John, that was a tactical strike. The plane could have been as close as 500 meters in the sky above its target. Certainly it's being met with a lot of anti-aircraft fire, but it is long gone at this point, John.
Yeah. These planes are moving so rapidly, and with the one bright light on them. I guess that's the engines themselves that we're seeing going by. This is something I've never covered before, ladies and gentlemen. Peter Arnett is our expert at CNN on war coverage, and I'm getting, this is a literal baptism by fire, isn't it, Peter?
Well, I don't think there is anyone alive, John, who is an expert on this sort of thing, being in the middle of a major capital with an airstrike, air attacks like this going on. I don't know if any experts exist.
Well, Bernie.
I'll tell you, I was just at the window and I saw that F-15 go by, or more accurately, I should say I heard it. And as you indicated, Peter Arnett, by the time that plane had cleared the space over here, it was out of sight. Only then could the anti-aircraft batteries respond to it, and as you said, it was much too late.
All right, since we did see another bomb go off near the major telecommunications facility, we better make sure that our viewers are still able to hear us. Let us just check in, make sure that you guys can still hear us in Atlanta and around the network.
John Holloman, Bernard Shaw, and Peter Arnett. Yes, indeed, we can hear you, and we're going now to the Pentagon briefly, and Wolf Blitzer.
David, here at the Pentagon, we're in the press briefing room where there is going to be a briefing with the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Colin Powell, and Defense Secretary Dick Cheney shortly after the President addresses the nation. That is in about 45 minutes. we are also receiving indications from Pentagon sources that this initial U.S. airstrike seems to be moving ahead on schedule, as planned, without any great disasters as far as the United States is concerned. One reason why there, so far, does not appear to have been any Scud launchings into Saudi Arabia or into Israel or into any of the other alleged targets that the Iraqis had is because we had been told repeatedly that those F-15s, those F-117A stealth fighters, those F-16s, all of the carrier-based U.S. aircraft, their immediate initial target, in addition to anything that could endanger those planes, would be all of Iraq's Scud missile bases, the mobile bases, certainly the fixed ballistic missile bases. They not only have the Soviet-made Scud ground-to-ground missiles, but also the Iraqis have improved some of those Scuds. They're called the Al Hussein and the Al Abbas. Those were day one, number one targets, as we and other networks have been reporting now for months. The United States was going to take those missile sites out. No indication completely, no confirmation that the United States has, but certainly if the Iraqis had planned to launch any of those Scud missiles, they almost certainly would have launched them within the first minutes of this war, and the war now appears to be about 2 hours old. David?
Operation Desert Storm now 1 hour and 3/4 old, and with me here in the studio listening to it all along. The coverage from Baghdad is so compelling, we'll go back right away, but Secretary Weinberger, former Secretary of Defense through two terms of the Reagan administration. What about what you've been hearing?
Well, I think, first of all, we achieved complete tactical surprise, very much like the attack on Libya when the lights were all on and didn't go off until long after the raid began. Secondly, I think targets, radar and defense suppression was the principal goal, and the first wave probably didn't do any bombing, just in order to draw the radar and to identify the sites. And I think subsequent waves did do that. Thirdly, I think and there'll be more of that, of course, as we identify more and more radar sites. Finally, I think the targets that we have chosen have been very carefully chosen to be military only and to be well away from any kind of civilian casualty damage. That would be airfields, railroad stations, the communications tower that they keep mentioning, military assembly points, anything of that kind. And they will be very careful to select them so that even if the bomb misses by a short amount, it would not get into civilian damage. But primarily, this was to suppress the defense, the missiles and the radar, and to identify the radar. And I would imagine most of this raid will continue probably well into the morning hours, because with many of the defense points suppressed, the additional planes can go in with far less danger.
Secretary Weinberger, thank you very much for that perspective. Charles Bierbauer is standing by live at the White House, where the president is about to come on in a short time. I'm sorry, I'm hearing that there's another wave of planes coming into Baghdad, and we have 3 fine reporters there. Let's listen.
Dave, thank you. We're back here, and just as Secretary Weinberger was talking to us, we were watching another one of these waves of attack here. The night sky lit up once again, a lot of anti-aircraft fire, and we can hear the sounds of battle outside the window.
And once again, John Holloman, as the planes come in and just shoot across the sky, by the time these anti-aircraft batteries respond, it is too late.
It's interesting what Secretary Weinberger was saying, that what the planes, whoa, that was a bright light, everybody get down in case there's a blast after. Okay, that was on the east side of our location.
That was definite bombing. That was on the other side of the hotel.
Yeah, look over here, Bernie, off to the west. A lot of bright lights down on the horizon now. It could be anti-aircraft or it could be incoming there.
Yeah. Well, let's let our viewers around the world listen to this exchange for a while.
Okay, Bernie, I'm going to crawl over to the window again with our microphone and just poke it out the window. Let you listen to what we were able to hear so clearly here in Baghdad tonight. It's beginning to get quiet again. Peter?
Yes, John, on the other side of the hotel, it's a little noisier. Just 2 minutes ago, there were 3 enormous explosions that one after the other within seconds. I had no idea what the target was, but they shook the hotel on that side. So these bombing raids are continuing now, wave after wave, and the intensity has been maintained. I've noticed that the Iraqis have uncorked new kinds of anti-aircraft weapons. I don't know what they are, but
They appear to be heavier caliber,
they are spurting fire into the sky, heavier caliber. I don't know what they are, but they are more impressive than that used earlier. They're obviously uncorking other extra anti-aircraft defenses as this battle progresses.
Just one comment. Clearly, I've never been there, but this feels like we're in the center of hell.
It's a remarkable experience to be here tonight, ladies and gentlemen, and the night sky again lit up with beautiful red and orange tracers and white flashes again as airbursts continue to come, probably from the anti-aircraft guns, from all we can tell. And all around us now we hear explosions, big explosions at great distances away from our location. As Secretary Weinberger was mentioning in his interview just now, Peter, they are not apparently, the Allies, the coalition forces are not targeting civilian targets apparently at all. And all the anti-aircraft fire, we see more of it to the south right now, going straight up, seems to be very far from the center of town.
Well, right in front of me, John, to I guess the north, I see a series of surface-to-air missiles being fired up. They look like that to me. They're going straight in the sky. Who knows what they're aiming at? They're aimed at the attacking force, but there were about 5 were launched just within seconds of each other.
Yeah, just kind of boom, 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 boom.
They just went right up there, right into the sky.
Right, and it's we'll have to tell you again, and for our families who are listening to our broadcast now, all of this is happening very far away from where we are. It's nighttime, so everything is brightly illuminated, but you should know that for the present time anyway, we're safe, and all the action is very visible to us, but it's very far away from us. Bernie Shaw.
Oh, I'm just crawling around on the floor. I just checked the other side of the hotel, and it's repetition of what we're seeing before our very eyes right now. More anti-aircraft fire, what appears to be giant sparklers flashing and then going dark, streams of tracer fire going up.
It's like one of these fireworks that has a bunch of, it says exploding balls on the side of it. They go up in the air one after the other.
And there's no doubt to me that those flashing silver lights are radar suppression devices just to mislead the radar-guided anti-aircraft guns that are shooting at the planes coming by, John.
Peter, let's go over to the other side of the hotel. We have a long extension.
Interrupting the gentleman in Baghdad, we're going now to Charles Jaco in Saudi Arabia. He's in Dhahran. Charles?
Just lost the line.
We hear the sirens and we can see you,
Hello.
Charles.
This is Charles Jaco in Saudi Arabia. Right now, the air raid sirens are going off again. We're being told to clear the area. The last time it was a drill. This time we're not sure if it is a drill or not, but everyone's being told to clear this area and get out of this area, get into the shelter in the basement of the area where we are. Right now, the only information we have that's updated is from the Saudi military, who say there was a mammoth airstrike against Iraq, and so far, at least until now, no trace of any retaliation from Iraq. This may be it. We don't know. The last time it was a drill, but the Saudi military says it's been a mammoth Allied airstrike against Iraq. Charles Jaco, CNN, reporting live from Saudi Arabia.
All right, Charles, we do hear those precautionary sirens in the background. Let's return now to Baghdad. I'll remind you that at the Al Rashid Hotel there, a 14-story building, Bernard Shaw, Peter Arnett, John Holloman.
For Baghdad, well, I hesitate to say an air battle. There does not seem to have been any Iraqi aircraft fighters in the sky. We have seen no dogfights that could resemble anything like that. It looks like the Iraqi Air Force has not been able to get in the sky tonight. Maybe they were one of the first targets hit, Bernie.
And for our viewers, just to paint the picture for you where we are physically right now, we are in the hall on the floor, and we can look through open hotel doors to see either side. And it has suddenly fallen quiet again over the skies of Baghdad.
It has done so a dozen times in the last hour and a half, Bernie, and this lull is usually broken by more bombing. John?
That's right, Peter. Wave after wave of attack coming in here to downtown Baghdad. But we have so many correspondents arrayed around the globe at this hour. We would like to hear from more of them, so let some of them talk for a little while as we wait for the next wave of attack, which we'll do our best to bring to you. John Holloman with Bernie Shaw and Peter Arnett live in Baghdad.
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. We definitely will be back with you. Let's go now to the White House. The President of the United States is going to speak to the nation in a little more than a half an hour, and Charles Bierbauer.
Well, the President has been in the Oval Office throughout the evening. We're told that National Security Advisor Brent Scowcroft is in the Situation Room here at the White House and keeping the President apprised Also told that the president is able to have instantaneous communication if he wants it with General Schwarzkopf, who is the U.S. commander on the ground in Saudi Arabia. A couple of points. As we know, the president was watching television shortly before 7 o'clock. Officials say there was some concern about the attack being aired live on television, but the president, as he watched and heard the reports coming out of Baghdad, noted that things were moving right on schedule. That's when the announcement was made here. Marlon Fitzwater, in briefing reporters, was asked just what the objective is. Is it to get Saddam Hussein? Mr. Fitzwater spelled out the objectives this way, saying it is to get compliance with the UN resolutions and to free Kuwait. Although some officials here have indicated that indeed Saddam Hussein would certainly be at risk in a bombing attack on Baghdad. Again, the president working on that speech, actually a speech that he has been working on for a couple of weeks and that he has written pretty much himself. It'll last 10 to 12 minutes. One last point, Mr. Fitzwater asked if there's now relief here, said relief is not the word. The word is anticipation, that indeed there will be several days of hard work lying ahead. As you can hear, Mr. Bush will speak at 9:01. David?
Is a 9:01 hard start. Thank you.
Okay, Charles, thank you very much. We're going now to Richard Blystone in Jerusalem. We'll be back with you later. Richard.
It's going to be live.
David, we have with us here in the CNN office in Jerusalem a high-ranking member of Israel's cabinet, Ehud Olmert, the Minister of Health. Let me ask you first, Mr. Olmert, was Israel informed of when this attack was going to take place?
Well, I was not entirely surprised that it took place tonight, that I can say.
Now, intelligence about the movements of Iraqi missiles and aircraft was of supreme importance to Israel in these last weeks. Can you talk about how you managed it with the United States?
Well, first of all, we have our own intelligence, which is not so bad, and we have tried as good as we could to find out exactly. And it is not a secret that we have very good and close relationships with America, and there was a constant flow of information throughout.
Now, your aircraft, Israeli jet aircraft, have been flying 24-hour cover around Israel's borders, a sky shield for several days now. Obviously, you weren't entirely confident that all of Iraq's missiles could be stopped.
Oh, no. In fact, right now, I'm not sure that they are entirely stopped. And as you know, we are on an alert situation. The Israelis were advised not to leave homes. And the gas masks are very close to everyone. I'm carrying one with me now. And we are not certain that it will not happen.
Now, as Minister of Health, you had an extra special interest in the missiles or bombers. At this point, you don't feel that the risk is entirely over?
No, not at all. Not at all. In fact, all our systems are ready. All the hospitals have been alerted. And we have bought special drugs in the last few weeks to make sure that in case there are some people wounded, we will know how to treat them, both for chemical weapons and for biological weapons. And the danger is not over yet. Everything can happen.
But what you had to be prepared for and what you really expected would be two different things. Can you tell us what kind of Iraqi response did you really expect? Did you expect it would be devastating?
Look, we know that they have ground-to-ground missiles which can reach Israel. We know that they have chemicals. We know that they have biological warheads. We know that for some time they have been threatening Israel to be the first target. In fact, they said it. Saddam Hussein said it, and Tariq Aziz said it very explicitly, that the first target for the Iraqi missiles will not be Saudi Arabia or Kuwait, but Israel. And we had to take it very seriously. So in fact, we have prepared ourselves for the worst possible scenario. We have prepared ourselves for a massive number of casualties, and we did everything possible in order to address ourselves to this. We bought lots of medicines. We have installed in every hospital in Israel detoxicating, purifying systems, so that if people will be hit, they will be washed and brought to treatment afterwards. And The whole country is ready and is very much aware of the danger.
Just one last question, Mr. Minister. How long is it going to be? What are you going to require as evidence before you stop carrying around your gas mask?
Well, I guess that when it's quite clear that Iraq is totally defeated and they are totally incapacitated by the American take, then I think we'll feel a lot more confident.
Ehud Olmert, Israeli Health Minister, thank you very much. Back to you, David.
Richard and Minister Olmert, thank you very much for that report from CNN Jerusalem. The last time we heard from Charles Jaco, he was heading for a bomb shelter at Dahran, and we will be back to him as soon as we can. There were sirens in the background, but no signs of any incoming anything. The United States and the UN Allied forces have launched a massive air attack on Baghdad, Iraq tonight, wave after wave of planes coming over, but apparently doing pinpoint bombing, going after strategic targets and not saturation bombing. Let's switch now to the focus of much of the diplomatic negotiation that preceded tonight's action, and Jeannie Mose at the United Nations.
David, the members of the UN Security Council are expected to meet here at the UN for consultations on this sometime tonight. The Secretary General of the UN told us as much a short time ago. On his way out of the building, we're not sure when. The U.S. mission to the United Nations is saying that probably sometime after the President of the United States speaks. In any case, the Secretary General of the UN was watching all of this on television. He left the building a short time ago saying he would be back soon. And here is some of what he said on his way out the door.
After all my efforts, after all the efforts of so many countries and so many personalities, that we are now facing a war. And then at this very moment, only 1 hour and a half after the hostilities, I am not well informed. I have not a lot of details about what has happened. But I think it's for me to express my deep sorrow because of as Secretary General of the United Nations, a peace organization, I can only be saddened by the beginning of hostilities.
The Secretary General saying he was saddened by hostilities. He also sounded a bit upset that he was not informed. He does not seem to be terribly informed in advance about this by the United States. As for action by the Council, we expect the United States to probably brief members of the Council on what it is doing. The ambassador from Cuba, which was one of the two countries that voted against the use of force resolution, as he left the building a few minutes ago, he said that Cuba would try to get the Council to do something to stop this war, although there's not much the Council can do. After all, it was the Council that authorized this action. And a CNN crew a short time ago went to the Iraqi mission to the UN to see what kind of response they would have at this early time in the hostilities. Someone merely closed the door on CNN people saying no, no, no. It was interesting, actually, when word of this started to come through here at the UN, filter out here at the UN. It wasn't confirmed. I happened to be near some of the Iraqi delegations, some of the lower level people that were sitting in the UN, and I told them what we had heard, that the hostilities were starting. They were serious, calm about it, and they simply at that point thought it probably wasn't true. Well, it is true. The Kuwaiti ambassador, by the way, welcomed the attack and said he wished victory to the U.S.-led operation. I'm Jeannie Mose reporting live from the United Nations.
Thank you, Jeannie. I might make note now for our viewers that we have temporarily lost contact with Baghdad. I don't wish to alarm anyone. We did expect to have this come in and out. But our three correspondents, Bernard Shaw, Peter Arnett, and John Holloman, are there in the Al Rashid Hotel. We expect to, and we hope to be bringing you some more of their reports later. The NATO foreign ministers have announced an emergency meeting at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. They will be meeting at their headquarters in Brussels, Belgium. That comes 1/2 hour after the meeting here in Washington with the nation on television of President Bush, the Commander-in-Chief of the United States, addressing the United States on what has been called by United States officials Operation Desert Storm, wave after wave of Allied planes attacking tonight the city and capital of Baghdad. Let's go now for an update to the Pentagon and Wolf Blitzer.
David, here at the Pentagon, we are broadcasting now from the CNN office at the Pentagon. They're getting the studio in the Pentagon ready for a briefing in about 1 hour, shortly after the President's address to the nation. They're getting it ready for a briefing by the Secretary of Defense, Dick Cheney, and the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Colin Powell. I want to reiterate what you said. The loss of communications, hopefully only temporarily, from Baghdad should not necessarily be a source of great alarm. For days, Pentagon officials have been telling us here at CNN that in this initial airstrike, once it happens, the U.S. will be zapping most of Iraq with so much electronic jamming equipment, so many electronic signals, that almost all of the communications, telephone, satellite, everything else, certainly television, almost everything is going to go out very, very quickly. It was a high priority target for the U.S. military, not necessarily to go after civilian targets, but to make sure that all of the command and communications facilities in and around Baghdad, certainly in Basra in the south of Iraq, closer to Kuwait, all of that would be knocked out. The major reason being that the 540,000 Iraqi troops in and around Kuwait, what's called the Kuwaiti Theater, Kuwait and southern Iraq, that they would be isolated from command headquarters, from the bunkers where presumably Saddam Hussein personally is giving orders. So I just wanted to reiterate that we should not be overly alarmed by the loss of communications, and we should not be surprised if those communications with Baghdad are derailed, at least for the duration, at least for the time being. Let me also say that this airstrike is an airstrike. We have no indications that any U.S. land forces have actually moved in to liberate Kuwait. It has always been assumed that it would be several days, maybe even a week or two, could be longer, before any of those ground forces would be used. Certainly the initial reports reaching the Pentagon from CENTCOM, Central Command Headquarters in Riyadh, from General Norman Schwarzkopf, the commander of Operation Desert Shield, those initial reports appear to be very favorable as far as the U.S. is concerned. The orchestrated U.S. airstrike with all of the targets, the Scud missile bases, the anti-aircraft facilities, all of the Iraqi air bases, anything that could endanger the invading U.S. Air Force and the Navy fighters, all of that would be destroyed in this initial airstrike. David?
Wolf, thank you very much. It is 8:37 in the East. President Bush addresses the nation at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Just moments ago, the White House spokesman Marlin Fitzwater described the president as calm, expectant, very matter-of-fact. He has been watching the first reports of the action which he initiated. We're going now to New York. The financial markets are reacting. Certainly there have been some jiggles in the oil markets. Bill Hartley reports now from New York.
Well, David, the outbreak of war is, of course, dominating world financial markets at this hour. Japan's stock market, though, down only very slightly in morning trading. Apparent relief that something has finally happened. Nikkei average is off just over 75 points. That's about a third of a percentage point. Oil prices are rising right now on fears of what war will do to Middle Eastern fields, but spot traders say there are very few buyers or sellers. The quoted range is anywhere from $7 to $12 a barrel, higher than closing New York prices. That would put a barrel of light sweet crude just over the $40 mark. And the dollar is sinking against most major currencies, off 1 1/4 yen against the Japanese currency, falling about 2 pennies on the German mark and 1 1/4 cent on the British pound. We'll be following other markets in Asia and Europe through the night. David?
Bill Hartley reporting from the financial desk in New York. Thank you very much. I'm pleased to report that we can go back to Baghdad now and our 3 correspondents there. Let's see who picks up the phone.
Yes, this is Peter Arnett here. We're just temporarily off the air. There has been a lull for about 15, 20 minutes now. There has not been one tracer bullet in the sky. We don't see any more bombing in the distance, so for the time being anyway, it is quiet. I'll give you over to Bernie Shaw.
Thank you, Peter. Just to explain to our viewers why you did not hear from us for a nervously long time. For the past 20 minutes, I've been hiding under a table, and what happened was the security people made a sweep. They got very upset that there were 3 mortals on this floor, just 3 men standing in a hotel room. So I scampered to hide to make sure that if they pulled Arnett and Holloman out and took them downstairs into custody, at least there would still be one CNN person on the air. John?
I did the same thing you did, Bernie, only I hid under a bed, and it's amazing that somebody as large as I am can get under a bed that close to the ground, but I was able to do it at least, and the situation here now is the Iraqi authorities now know that we're here, and I don't know that they've been able to tell. I don't know whether their satellite dishes that are tuned to CNN work in these blackout conditions.
I'm concerned that we not be summarily picked off one by one, so I'm going to yield the microphone to you, John, and to you, Peter, and I'm going to go back and hide under this table, not because I'm fearful of what's happening outside in the air, but I want to be sure that if there's another sweep, if you two get picked off, at least one of us will be here, and perhaps we might be a good idea to rotate this.
Sure, good idea, Ben.
I'd like to assure our viewers the hotel security men were amiable. They let me stay. They understood. I explained that I didn't tell them we were reporting live from this hotel room, but I did say that we had been invited by the Minister of Information to witness what was going on here, and they accepted that explanation. 1 minute, please.
Here we go. I'm just looking out the window. The security people have forced us to close our windows, and maybe it's for our own good, maybe not. We don't know whether these windows are going to shatter under blasts or not, but there's some beautiful tracer fire outside now. It's way up in the air. It's bright red blasts and yellow blasts, and with the windows closed, we can't hear as well as we were able to hear before. But it continues to go on outside now. We don't, because we can't hear as well. We can't really tell you as much about what's going on as we would have been able to with the window open. Well, these security fellows also took some of the videotape out of one of our cameras. They say we'll get it back tomorrow. I'm a little skeptical that we will, but it was the beautiful pictures that we took to go along with the commentary that you heard earlier tonight on CNN.
You keep using that word, beautiful. This is not beautiful to me. Peter, you were being modest when you told viewers, you explained that you had the permission of the Interior, the Information Ministry. Ladies and gentlemen, you should have heard this masterful performance. I was in the other room on the floor under the table, and this Peter Arnett man said to the security guy, I spent 10 years in Vietnam. The bombs outside, they don't bother me. If I go down in the shelter, I go crazy. It was quite a performance, and he conned them.
That's right.
All right, Bertie and Peter and John, we'll be back to you. Thanks for that report. We're going now to Charles Jaco, who has been reporting to us from Tehran, Saudi Arabia. Charles?
Yes, another false alarm, apparently. The air raid sirens went off here. We were led to believe it was some sort of air raid alert, either a missile alert or an air raid attack. We've stayed out here, losing phone lines, getting them back. What we can see is behind us, I don't know if you can see them, the lights of the city are on. It's rather unusual for a city that might be thought to be under attack, but the city is still brightly lit around the air bases here. There's no sign that the city is hunkered down or blacked out at all. Air raid sirens did sound. They sounded for a couple of minutes, then went off. Then the alarms here at the hotel went off, telling everyone to don their gas masks. All of us carry these now, and to get downstairs. Again, that it was apparently a false alarm. What we know, again, we can repeat. We heard earlier from Saudi military sources, which is that the first one was a false alarm. Apparently, this one was a false alarm. It was a national air raid alert. The last we heard from the Saudi military, and we say Saudi military because no information has been forthcoming here from U.S. military sources, is that the airstrikes against Iraq by Allied air forces, primarily the U.S. Air Force, have been massive, and they kept emphasizing that word, massive, and that they have detected no retaliation, either missile or jet, against Saudi Arabia from that. The Saudis are still obviously on pins and needles. They've been living in a state of high war alert since early August and are very understandably nervous and concerned about what might happen. But so far, everyone here in Tehran is safe, and there have been no problems except for bad cases of jangled nerves and scrambles down to the hotel basement into the shelter and putting on the gas mask. But all we can tell you right now is that apparently the attack was underway. It was massive, and so far at least, and this was our information as of about 20 minutes ago, so far no retaliation, either missile or jet of any kind from Iraq, has been spotted. Charles Jaco, CNN, reporting live from Saudi Arabia.
All right, Charles, we'll switch just a few miles away and go to Riyadh, I believe, and Don Sweeney. We're expecting a report from him. Come in.
The military personnel in Saudi Arabia have just learned officially from their commander that they are in fact involved in Operation Desert Storm. A communique from General Norman Schwarzkopf issued just a few moments ago. Part of it says to the members of the military, you are a member of the most powerful force of our country in coalition with our allies that has ever assembled in a single theater to face such an aggressor. Now you have trained hard for this battle, and you are ready. He goes on to say a bit later, our cause is just. Now you must be the thunder and lightning of Desert Storm. May God be with you, your loved ones at home, and our country. It's signed H. Norman Schwarzkopf, the commander of the forces in Saudi Arabia. This is John Sweeney, CNN, in Riyadh.
All right, John, any extraneous noises outside where you are? Is everything fine?
We had one air raid warning about an hour and a half ago. We have not heard anything since then. The traffic in the streets is quite early in the morning here. It's 4:45 in the morning. The traffic in the street is quite normal, and other than that, things are quite quiet in Riyadh.
All right, thank you very much. And now a moniker that I hope doesn't stick. Let's go back to the boys in Baghdad.
Thank you, David. The boys in Baghdad are here, and we want to tell you a couple of things. There have been calls we've learned from CNN, from other networks, asking about the safety of their people. There are 45 journalists still in Baghdad tonight, according to the Minister of Information. And as far as we know, all those 45 journalists are in this hotel, and everybody in this hotel is safe. It hasn't been hit. There's a series of fallout, or not, bomb shelters down in the basement, and virtually everybody except us is down there in those shelters. Bernie?
John, I made the trek downstairs into the bomb shelter and then came back upstairs. And indeed, all the journalists who were in this hotel when it happened, and most of them were because there had been a series of staff meetings, they are safe downstairs in the bomb shelter. No one is being permitted outside the hotel. I know for a fact, CBS News, if you're wondering, I saw with my own two eyes Larry Doyle, and we go way back to our days at CBS in Washington. He's fine. I saw Alan Tizzy. He was sitting on the floor sipping a glass of something. He seemed quite content. And there's a young thin chap who said he worked for CBS. I think he does radio. He's fine. Everybody is safe. We know you're worried about us, and we're concerned about ourselves, but everybody is safe. Peter, you look like you want to say something.
I simply want to say, Bernie, that this lull has lasted about 25 minutes now. No aircraft fire, no bombing. So it looks like this first phase is over, and we'll get back to you when it all starts again.
Okay, thanks, Peter Arnett. John Holloman, you want to say anything before we throw it back to our colleagues?
I just want to look out the window one last time and make sure that that it is as quiet as it seems to us. There are a few air bursts out here, but there's no anti-aircraft. I mean, there's nothing loud and noisy that we're hearing, and we don't feel any vibrations from outside. So I think it's probably safe for us to let the rest of the network broadcast a little bit tonight. From Baghdad, for Peter Arnett and Bernard Shaw, it's John Holloman. We'll be here if you need us.
Compelling reporting, gentlemen. Thank you very much. It's coming up on 5 o'clock in the morning in Baghdad, and behind that, not too far, will be light. President Bush is going to address the nation shortly, within 12 or 13 minutes, and the lull that they're talking about having lasted 25 minutes may well continue until that is over. Also, we're expecting a briefing from the Secretary of Defense and Joint Chiefs Chairman Colin Powell at the Pentagon following the President's remarks. Now let's go to Norfolk, Virginia. An awful lot of ships carrying the planes that were in the air over Baghdad sailed out of Norfolk. Tom Mentier is there with those who stayed behind and with this report.
There are 35,000 Navy servicemen that have departed from Norfolk for the Persian Gulf. We are at the First Baptist Church of Norfolk, where just a few moments ago, the Reverend here made the announcement to a packed congregation. There was a concert going on inside. Joining us is Colleen Jackson. Colleen, your husband, Kevin, is Lieutenant Commander, and he is aboard the Saratoga. Tell me what thoughts went through your mind as the Reverend made the announcement. Did you think it would come tonight?
No, I didn't think it would come tonight, and I didn't think it would hit quite so hard. I knew that there were airplanes launched. I don't know if he's one of them. I'm scared. I can't think of a better place to have been tonight than to have been in church.
The church has a support system where they will contact everyone and make sure that people are not alone who are members of this church. Is it a good system? Does it help?
Yes, it does help, and I have my own support system of my friends from this church. They're making sure that no one will be alone tonight. They're making sure that everyone that needs to have a support, a shoulder to cry on, a friend to pray with. They're just the most wonderful people to be associated with right now.
Will you watch the president tonight?
Yes, I probably will, just to see if there's any information that I can find at all about what's happening with my husband and with the men in his squadron.
If you could talk to the president right now, what message would you send to him?
That I believe in him, that I'm praying for him, and to just bring our men home as quickly and safely as he possibly can.
Colleen Jackson, thank you very much. I know this is a very difficult time for you. Thank you. So it is one of the Navy wives, and there are 35,000 of them here in Norfolk, Virginia tonight. They're all waiting for some type of word. I'm Tom Intier, CNN, reporting live from Norfolk, Virginia.
Thanks, Tom. They, too, are among the brave, of course, all across this nation. Let's return now to Baghdad and our three correspondents.
Thanks, David. Yeah, we're here, and it's very quiet outside. There still are an occasional flash of light off to the south of our location, far in the distance. There have been no big blasts in the recent past. No signs of anti-aircraft fire right now. No sounds of jets overhead. It's that eerie stillness that we talked about earlier in the day. Bernie Shaw is here now.
I just want to make this observation. The President of the United States is coming up to address his nation and the world very shortly. And that we are on the air means that the government of Iraq, its ears are wide open, and it will be listening to President Bush very closely. We told you earlier in the week that the Information Ministry had received its own satellite dish, and prior to that, the Foreign Ministry had its. We've got to run. Somebody's knocking on the door. John and I are going to hide. Peter, here.
Yes, this is Peter Arnett signing off for a minute, and I'll see what the action is outside.
All right, thank you very much, gentlemen. We assume that's not the Fuller Brush salesman. Let's go to Robert Vito. He's standing by now on the west coast of the United States at San Diego, another important naval base. Robert.
Well, I'm at an apartment complex in San Diego, and I've spent the last few hours with several wives whose husbands are serving aboard ships in the Persian Gulf. And we've all been glued to the television set watching CNN, mesmerized by what we've seen and by what we've heard. And it's been an emotional time for these ladies as they held hands and they prayed and had these feelings that I'll let them tell you about. Denise, what was your feeling, your reaction as you watched the events unfold?
I was scared, frightened for my husband, for the guys on his ship, and for the Iraqi people, because it's come to this, you know. This crazy man has brought us this far. I back my husband up. I'm very proud of what he does and who he is and where he's at right now. But I'm also scared because I want him home.
If you had a moment to talk to the president, what would you say to him, the president of the United States?
To get it done and over with as quickly as possible. I'd like to see Saddam Hussein brought in front of the UN Council and tried. That's the way I feel about it. This man shouldn't be walking free. I think he ought to be tried for what he's done and what he's put the Iraqi people as well as the United States and all the countries that are over there through.
Thank you, Denise. Kay, could you just come up? Kay Hunter is a lady who a lot of the wives who have husbands on ships lean on for support and help. What are your feelings?
I am very, very deeply concerned for all the people over there. We have to be strong together because it's our strength and our support of one another that is going to get us through this. And it's because of this group here and lots of groups like this all over the United States with the parents and the wives and the children that are going to help the families get through this. And we are here and we love them all, and we're 1,000% behind the military. And Mr. Bush, get them over there and get it over with and get our husbands home.
Thank you. I know these are tough times. I'm going to ask Charlotte. Charlotte, could you just come over here and just share a moment with us and tell me your thoughts.
I'm very upset right now, of course, but I back up my husband 100%. I just want it over with and send him home.
Did you support the action?
I feel that they did what they had to do. And I feel sorry for all the people over there that lives are going to be lost. And I think Hassan should have to pay for this. I think he should not get away with what has happened here.
Thank you, Charlotte, for sharing your thoughts with us. So the feeling here is, of course, like elsewhere, that the war will be over soon. Robert Vito reporting live from San Diego.
Bye. Shortly, I'd like to point out first that a senior administration official has told CNN that no ground attack has occurred at this point. We repeat, no ground attack is underway. Australian warships have been authorized, 3 of them, to assist in the multinational force arrayed against Iraq to free Kuwait. The mission of President Bush tonight, which he will address the nation on in less than 5 minutes, is simply to free Kuwait. Let's go now to Doug James and get his report from Amman. Doug.
We understand that Jordan's King Hussein is currently, like many other people, watching CNN to see the latest developments from Iraq and Kuwait. So far, the people here have been told very little. There was a radio announcement approximately 1 hour ago giving them the bare details. They'll have to wait until 10 o'clock local time in the morning to get more information. With us at the moment is Kamal Abu Jabbar, a Middle East expert who's been following the Gulf crisis from the very beginning. And I wonder, sir, what you think is going through King Hussein's mind at this very moment?
I think what's going through his head right now is sadness and a terrible shock that in the final analysis something could not have been worked out in a decent way. That while President Bush is speaking about free Kuwait, why can't he speak about free Palestine? And I think that is what is going through his mind at this moment.
Would he have been taken by surprise, as many others have, with the nature of the attack this evening, the quickness of the attack this evening?
Yes, I think so, very much so. I don't think anybody in the whole world, anybody in his right mind expected this kind of reaction by the United States. I still believe that there was room for talk, and I am puzzled, like I'm sure His Majesty is puzzled at this moment, why couldn't the United States have talked to Iraq in a meaningful and in a human manner?
What reaction do you think he'll have tomorrow? Will he have more to say in the morning?
His Majesty, yes, of course he will have to say. I'm sure of that, yes.
As you know, the country is in the middle of Iraq and Israel. This must be a primary concern of his at the moment.
Of course. I mean, you know, we have the Israeli army to our west that is armed to the teeth with all kinds of ugly weapons and willing and ready to use them at any moment.
Thank you very much, sir. Yes. This is Doug James reporting live from Amman, Jordan.
Thank you, Doug. The president is going to speak in about 3.5 minutes. We return now to Baghdad and our 3 correspondents there until then. Bernie Shaw.
David, I just want to explain to you and our viewers what happened. There was a knock at the door, and we had to scramble. I had to go to my hiding position under the table, but we're back here, and we're standing by. I had indicated that, in my opinion, we will be watching very closely and listening to what the president has to say. I was reporting that the information and foreign ministries can receive CNN. They will be watching and listening. And Peter Arnett, John Holloman, I'm going to be listening for signals from the President of the United States to Saddam Hussein.
One more thing before we go to the president. We just had another fairly loud blast on the outside, which was visible as a white flash in our windows. We'll stay here, and after the president's done, we'll give you an update on what happened while he was speaking. Peter? No, okay, we'll go back to Atlanta now.
All right, thank you very much, gentlemen. We will be back to you. Perhaps another wave beginning. We have been informed that there will be more, possibly more air attacks tonight. The president's about to speak to the nation, and let's go to the White House and our senior correspondent, Charles Bierbauer. Well, he'll be with us shortly. The president has been described earlier this evening as expectant but calm and resolute, and he has said that this mission is to free Kuwait. Charles is ready now. Charles, come in.
David, President Bush, as you indicate very shortly, the speech anticipated. Perhaps we will